Stalin sent an assassin halfway across the world in order to put an ice pick through the skull of his biggest political rival. Here's how he did it. Communists overthrow the Tsar in Russia, and their first leader is Lenin. But Lenin has a stroke, and so a power struggle about who will succeed him takes place. Now, the natural person to do that is this man, Leon Trotsky, who was both an intellectual and philosophical leader of the communist movement, as well as a brilliant military genius who had led the Red Army to victory. But he crosses paths with a brash, arrogant, ruthless man, Joseph Stalin, who had recently been appointed as General Secretary of the Communist Party. And Stalin starts this campaign against Trotsky to undermine it. Eventually, Lenin dies, and Stalin declares himself to be dictator. Stalin embarks on a murderous rampage known as the Great Terror. Anybody that could potentially oppose him was labeled as an enemy of the people or the fifth column, kind of a deep state conspiracy within the Communist Party itself, he said. One of the first things he did was go after the military leaders who could oppose him. There were 103 Russian generals. He killed 80 of them. And then he turned on the peasants and the artists and the scientists. In total, 750,000 people would be murdered by Joseph Stalin. And that's the conservative number. The actual number may have been 1.5 million. He also rounds up 1 million people and sends them to prison. By the time he's done, 1 out of every 3 Communist Party members would be dead. So he has to flee, and he goes to Mexico City, and Stalin comes for him. Stalin's secret police recruit this man, Ramon Mercader, and they train him how to be a spy and an assassin. And then they reinvent him as a rich playboy, and they give him the name Jacques Bernard. They introduce him to Sylvia Agilov, who's Trotsky's inner circle. He woos her, and she falls in love with him. She takes him to Mexico City and introduces him to Trotsky, and they become regular guests at his home. When he's there, he memorizes where everything is, and he draws a map, and he gives them to a group of assassins. 30 men attack the compound, spraying it with bullets, but somehow managed to miss him, and he survived. A new plan is hatched, this time with a lone assassin, Mercader. And on August 20th, 1940, he goes to Trotsky's home and finds him with his rabbits. He tells Trotsky he wants him to look at an article, and they retire to the library. The assassin pulls out a pickaxe and slams it into the skull of Trotsky, but it's not enough to kill the old warrior, who fights back, overpowers the assassin, and holds him down until his bodyguards can arrive. Trotsky would fight on for a few more days, but ultimately died in the hospital. Publicly, of course, Stalin lied and said he had nothing to do with the assassination that he himself had orchestrated. Meanwhile, Stalin's secret assassin would spend 20 years in a Mexican prison, but when he was released, he would return to the Soviet Union, where he was declared to be a hero of the revolution.